Okay, I want to talk today to some exceptional people. Do we have any exceptional people in the house today?
Yep. Yes.
Okay, you can stay. Everybody else is dismissed, apparently. By exceptional, I mean those who have exceeded and succeeded against all odds. Those who went in where others went out and succeeded despite the world's rules and regulations. And all the while, Satan may have been telling you, and probably did tell everybody a lot of times, about how often you failed in the past, missed the mark, because he likes to do that. However, today we are here to tell you not to pay any attention, in case you are, not to pay any attention to how many times you may have missed the mark or failed. Rather, count the times that you have won. Count the times God gave you opportunities that you didn't even deserve. He just poured out his grace so you could bless others because of the blessing that you are. Count the times that God has stood with us or with you and gave you beauty for ashes. That's called success. And we all have that in us. We all have the potential, because God put it in us, to live large and succeed. That's what I'm calling this message today, living large. Solomon built the temple, and when he finished, and it was all constructed, it was spectacular. There's no doubt about it. It was stunning, magnificent, amazing. However, today, my focus is not really on that stunning, amazing opulence of the building, not the architectural design, or the gold materials that were used, or the marble flooring, or the granite flooring, marble columns, anything like that. Although that caused everybody, seriously, to just be in awe. And it truly was. It was spectacular. But when God's glory sat down on that building, on the temple, and it combined with the work of man that built that temple, then suddenly all that anybody could see was the glory of God. And when God's glory fell on the temple, I mean, everything kind of just stopped. All the religious order stopped. The priests stopped what they were doing. All the Levites were just standing there with mouths dropped open, jaws gaping. They were ready to play David's instruments. David was amazingly creative. He really was. Not only did he play the instruments, he made them. And those instruments at this point in time now had outlived David. So we're seeing actually the second generation of Levites continuing the legacy of the music of David, who had passed on. Yet his songs were still filling the air. So when the glory of God fell, it fell on them because they were praising and worshiping God. It didn't fall on them because of all the opulence of the building of the temple. It didn't fall on them because of the beautiful granite and the columns that were there, or because they had made this amazing structure. It fell, God's glory fell on them because of the praise of him. And when the praises went up, that's when the glory came down. And it came down so strongly, actually, the priests they had to be still. They could not move. The Levites just had to stop because God essentially had taken over the entire structure. His glory filled up every little nook and cranny, every room, every corner, every avenue, everywhere. Every spot was filled with the glory of God. Now, whenever we see God form a thing, something, he will always fill whatever he formed. And it was so strong, God's glory, that Solomon actually expressed some fears that they might lose it. So today we're going to talk to some blessed people who are unaware of really how blessed we truly are. I mean, Solomon came to God and essentially said, okay, well, what happens now? What happens if you just, shut up the heavens? And there's no more rain, and the crops stop, and the glory doesn't flow. What happens if all of this just kind of breaks down? And so God gave him a key, a clue. And it's written for all of us in 2 Chronicles 7, verse 14. God said, if my people who are called by my name humble themselves and pray, seek my face, turn from their wicked way, then will I hear from heaven. I will forgive their sins and I will heal their land. Ooh, heal our land. Boy, do we need that. Heal our land, Father. So when the glory came in, the priests laid prostrate in the temple. Worshippers collapsed because of that power of the glory of God. People all over Israel were standing in amazement, gazing up at the presence of God, almost as if they were in a daze. They were just experiencing that power of God coming from the presence of God. And they saw God's glory. But what they did not see or know was that Solomon's temple was built right where Ornan's, or some translations call it Araunah's, threshing floor was. Ornan or Araunah's threshing floor is what happened in the previous generation, and the story is written in 1 Chronicles, starting in chapter 1, verse 21. Remember when David had counted the people, and God judged him in sins, and God allowed a plague to come upon his people? And there was disaster and pestilence and disease. So David came to the threshing floor of Ornan. And the threshing floor is that place where wheat is separated from the chaff. So Ornan owned this place. So David said to him, look, I need this place because I want to offer up a sacrifice toward God. And so David wants to know how much it's going to cost. And Ornan or Araunah says, well, hey, whatever you want to give, that's fine by me. We'll call it a deal. And David says, no, I'll pay you full price. In fact, I want to pay full price for this. Full price. See, that's the difference between greatness and weakness. Because everybody wants greatness. I mean, let's admit that. Everybody wants it, but not many are really willing to pay the price. In other words, to do what God says to do. Everybody wants to be acknowledged, but they don't want to pay full price. They don't desire to commit to integrity and the excellence of walking the way God commands us to walk. Everybody wants an opportunity or opportunities, but again, don't want to pay full price. Everybody wants to do something mighty and memorable, but few truly understand or realize and recognize how much it costs. David paid full price. So the question for us today is, are we willing to pay full price? Or are we content to just, talk the talk, play the game, go through the motions of religiosity? But when your faith comes down to the wire, are you willing to pay full price to walk into the next realm, into the next level, walk into the next opportunity, to walk into this next move of God, to walk into the presence of God and what He has for you? Are you willing? Or do you want just a handout? Do you want goodwill? Do you want God to give you something for nothing, in other words? David said, no way. I'm not going to offer God something that costs me nothing. I'm not going to just tip him like he's the skip the dishes delivery guy doing curbside service for me here. I'm not going to leave him change like he's a waiter. I'm not going to leave him 20 bucks on the kitchen counter like he's a tip for the maid. I'm going to pay full price for this. And in saying all of that, it made me wonder as I was looking into this, if David even recognized when he was paying full price, if he understood that his son would build on what he bought for generations to come. Which makes me also wonder how God brings blessings out of a mess, or how He could bring a blessing out of a curse, or how He could bring a blessing out of a plague, how He could move in the middle of COVID-19. All some people see is the problem, but not the opportunity. All David really wanted to do at this time was stop the sword of the angel. Because the Bible said that he bought the threshing floor from Ornan, and then he burned it up as a sacrifice. to God. And so when I was reading about Solomon's temple and the opulence of it and the decor and everything, and everybody, of course, is excited, and well, they should have been, because was an amazing structure. And they were talking about that and the worship and the excellence of the people who built it and the excellence of their men. I wondered if they actually saw and knew that that whole amazing structure was built on ashes. Because often we don't discern what was before the finished product, or even what is in us for that matter, as we walk on our path, because we're not a finished product yet. We're still on that path. We've been called by the author and finisher of our faith. So that's why Ornan's threshing floor was an attraction to David, because that's where the threshing floor is, where the wheat is beat down to its fruit, right? All the chaff is being beaten away so that the wheat falls to the ground. And whenever God puts us in an uncomfortable situation, he's sifting us. What matters, what doesn't matter, what's real, what's not real, what counts, what doesn't count, who can I have, who can I live without? You know, we all go through these periods where we get stuck in this wine press, this threshing floor, and Father starts shaking away the stuff that really is not important or shouldn't be important, and the stuff it's usually that we thought we should have. And then comes the calling, you know, and it can be a very high calling, a divine calling, a supernatural calling that has classified information about me or you at the point in time that you don't even have on yourself. You're not really truly understanding what's inside of you until the Father starts sifting a little bit. Or the angel, like spoke to David and others. The angel comes and tells you what you really are and what you've been called to do, and then there's a decision to be made. You must decide in the middle of this struggle which one of these entities is going to win the fight. What you grew up around, because we're all products of our environment, right? Is that what your future is? Or is your future what you were created by God to be? Because one of those options is going to determine the path of what your future is going to look like. Actually, when I was looking into this, it reminded me of the story of, and you may have heard this or seen it, because I think I saw it on a Facebook post. It's a story of the old Cherokee Indian. He's teaching his grandson about a life. And he says, a fight is going on inside of me, he says to his grandson. It's a terrible struggle between two wolves. One is evil. He's anger, envy, sorrow, regret, greed, arrogance, self-pity, guilt, resentment, insecurity, lies, false pride, and ego. The other wolf is good. He's joy, peace, love, hope, kindness, compassion, forgiveness, generosity, truth, and faith. And the grandfather continues and he says to his grandson, the same fight is going on inside of you and inside every other person too. So the grandson thinks about it for a while and he says, well, Grandpa, which wolf is going to win? The old Cherokee says, the one you feed. Bible tells us the story of Gideon being in the winepress on the threshing floor too. And he's there because it is possible to not know who you truly are, or who you really are at your core, right, at your essence, who you were created to be, what your potential is, what you can reach, what you can become, what you can withstand, what you can endure, how tough you really are, how strong you really are, how tenacious you really are. It's possible to not know that because feelings, if we don't know this, feelings never validate reality. You can feel like collapsing and still be in the middle of a battle and fighting. You can feel like the victim, and yet what does God say? We're the victor every time. We're not victims. You can feel limited, and still you haven't exhausted everything that God put inside of you. And remember, God's word tells us that We can do all things through Yeshua, who is in us. And we can never, if you haven't figured this out, and sometimes there are days I still can't, we can never define ourselves by how we feel, right? Feelings cannot be trusted because they lie to us. They deceive us. Our feelings shove us into this wine press. Our feelings will have us down in that wine press in the threshing floor, beating up on that wheat. So don't trust how you feel, because our feelings are this conglomerate of our life experiences built from our history, which is not our destiny. They are a response to what happened, not what God promises is going to happen in our lives. And these days, like I've mentioned recently, these days the world is an illusion. The events playing out globally is pretty much essentially cheap dinner theater. It is Satan's deception. The show is designed to keep people enslaved and not able to walk living large, as our Father in heaven established as our destiny. I spoke recently, actually, I think the last time I was up here, I was talking about how the Matrix, the world is the Matrix. And I also mentioned, and I believe it to this very instant, that movie I first thought was all science fiction is in fact a documentary. Because for the last year especially, public fakery has created this society of manipulated, compliant robots. Most people do not know who we really are, or more importantly, whose they are. We were created by God, we belong to God. But that's because the world is fake. I mean, there's fake ballots, there's fake votes, fake election. Anybody who tells you differently is a fake. Fake virus, fake pandemic, fake health officials, and doctors peddling a fake vaccine, fake news, fake experts, fake people pretending to be journalists, fake research, fake science, fake global warming, fake shootings, fake victims, fake calls for new laws, fake racism, that's a big one, fake hate crimes, fake solutions to every fake problem, fake terrorists, fake hijackers, fake politicians, fake laws, fake leaders in every area of life, fake pope, fake clergy, fake Christians fooled by a fake church, fake friends who will sell you out for 30 pieces of silver, which is fake, fake free markets, fake capitalism, fake corporate welfare, fake lawyers, fake judges, fake laws, fake movies, fake books, fake celebrities, fake food, fake vitamins, fake water filled with fluoride, fake diseases, fake health. Take this fake drug instead. Fake economy, fake money, fake history, fake excuses for war, fake choices, fake consent, fake tattoos, fake breasts, fake women, fake muscles, fake masculinity, fake men, fake advertising, fake products, fake everything. Are you real or are you fake too?
I have to check now, thanks.
No problem, it's what I'm here to do. But this is, I've put all that together for you because that's why you cannot trust your feelings. They are fake. Satan uses all the deceptions to steal our joy, to steal our peace, our discernment, so we don't know who we are, even though the Father and Yeshua tells us who we are and who we were created to be. The world is designed to confuse us out of living large because that's what God intended for us. He's promised it to us. His covenants tell us that. He guarantees us a hope and a future. And we need to praise and honor and worship and glorify Him and thank Him that there's something else inside of us that's urging us to not give up and quit. I mean, you might be going through a bad season. It happens. I know. But there's something inside. Just keeps pushing you on, pushing you on, pushing you and pulling you to live large. We're all attacked by doubts. The Bible is full of those stories for our benefit, so we can learn from that. You know, I mean, the moment the angel tells Gideon that he's a warrior, you remember that? He tells him he's a warrior, immediately Gideon is thrown into a conflict. He's confused. He thinks, what, really? A warrior? Seriously? My tribe is Manasseh, smallest tribe. I'm the youngest person. How can this be? How can I be a mighty man of valor? We're at war with the Amalekites. We're at war with the Midianites. They're beating us such and such out of us. They're winning. How can I be a mighty warrior? I'm at the lowest point. I'm the youngest person in the smallest tribe, in the worst situation with the poorest attitude. And God comes along and says something weird like, you are a mighty man of valor. Come on. And you know what? That's what it's like sometimes, you know, when we come to this assembly on the Sabbath, because all week Satan's beating on us. He's whispering in our ears or sometimes yelling in our ears that, oh, you've lost, just give it up. Throw in the towel, you're done. And then you come here on the Sabbath and there's me or somebody else up here saying, you are the head and you're not the tail. You're above and you're not beneath. You're more than a conqueror. You can do all things through Yeshua who strengthens you. God did not bring you this far to leave you out alone. Didn't take you through everything to get you to this point and then just back off. So I came to tell you something too then, besides what I've already said. Gideon dropped his wheat there in the press. He dropped his wheat because somebody called him a warrior. And it made him realize he was more than what he was doing at that point in time. And after wrestling with God and struggling with God, he started living in the middle of his life, actually. Because life doesn't begin when your mommy pushes you out of her tummy. Nope. It begins when you find out who you are and whose you are. It begins when it kind of life hits you kind of in the back of the head and you realize, wait a minute, I'm better than this. I'm better than where I am. I'm bigger than my circumstances. God's given me a destiny and a hope and a future, and he's given me a purpose for my life. He created me for a reason. He called me for a purpose. I am in this world to do something. Anybody need to hear this today? And Gideon does not even know that he's going to be in the book of Judges. You know, he has no idea that he is going to lead the army that drives out the Midianites, renders helpless the Amalekites, and he doesn't even know that he's going to need way less men than he thought originally. What did you pick, 9,000, 10,000? And God said, well, that's way too many for me. You know, so just, you know, pare that down. He had no idea that he would take less men and kill more people than ever done in the history of the scriptures if he could just get out of his pit and out of his own way. And somebody in this room right now is one pit away from supernatural purpose. It's that close. Have you got something to do in this stage of your life that is greater than you have ever done before? In fact, everything in your past was getting you ready for what you are about to do in your life. Because God picked the smallest tribe and the youngest guy with the worst attitude to lead a mass of people, to lead them. And again, like I said, Gideon started out with, 9,000, 10,000. And God says, well, hang on. We're going to just call out the best of this group. So take them down by the brook. And you choose only the men who get down on all fours and lap water out of the brook like dogs. You know? So when they got down to the brook, all the men who drank in their fancy schmancy big super cups and, you know, coffee mugs, because you can't have two cute people when you're fighting a battle. You have to get down to the real nitty gritty, you know. When you want to be in a fight, you got to have the ones who are ready to get down on their hands and knees and snap and growl like a dog. So God said, pick out 300 men that'll lap water like a dog. And they get down on their knees and do that. So these are the 300 guys he ended up with because they had nothing to lose. They weren't too proud to do what God told them to do. And no matter what they looked like, those were the ones. Those were the ones. And this is a season that you have to surround yourself with people who know how to get down, walk in faith, and do what we have all been trained to do. It's a season that God's going to show you how to live large and in charge as he destined us. So this is where we are. right now. The anointing of God is in this place. The Spirit of God is here. The glory of God is in this place. Yeshua has us here for a reason. There's something that God is getting ready to do in every one of our lives. Something that God has for us that is important. And not knowing is a problem. Not knowing who you are is the real problem. Living your life according to what other people said about you is the real problem. Living your life based on what your net worth is a real problem. Gideon would have been shocked to find out he made the Bible. He was shocked to find out he could fight. He was shocked to find out, catch this, he was shocked to find out that he was the guy he had been praying, asking God to send. He didn't know that he was the person for whom he had been waiting all of his life to arrive. He did not know that he was trying to get other people to love him because he didn't love himself. Let me filter that down one more level for you. He did not know that he was trying to find in other people what God had placed inside of him. He didn't know that he was asking God to send what he already was. He just had to find it in himself. That day in that wine press, with wheat everywhere and chaff on the ground, the angel called him something that he couldn't see, but he became what he was called. However, that's how our Father works, our loving Father. He knows us better than we do. And he has already filled us with everything we need to be successful, to be exceptional, to be winners and not losers. He put in us potential to create, to invent, to innovate, to be leaders and not followers. However, Satan works at grinding us down, so we start to doubt ourselves, doubt what God has put in us, doubt his word. Our faith gets stalled out. And when we do not have faith in God's love for us and his forgiveness, and we don't come to know our identity in Yeshua and live life large to the full, overflowing in abundance and prosperity in every area of our lives, we spin our wheels and we figure, oh man, it's passed us by. God forgot about me. Do you know that before God formed you in your mommy's belly, he knew you already out of the millions of sperm cells your father delivered into your mother? Before you ever even read a Bible, one cell outswam all the others. The odds were against you before you even got here, when you were on a cellular level, and you outswam the rest. That's how we got here. That's how we got started. And sometimes, you know, when you come from eternity, outside of time, you don't remember who you were before. But in Sabbath services like this, where God calls us and makes us realize some of these things that we didn't know before. Understand that when it comes to knowing who we are and our role and what the calling is on our life, it's not only important for disciples or preachers or leaders or thinkers or business leaders or fathers and mothers or wives or husbands. When it comes to knowing a role, your role, it's important even for animals. If you watch the animal kingdom, the animal world, boy, you'll learn a lot of stuff. And peace comes in knowing who you are, knowing how you were created and why you were created, and being willing to just be yourself. If you're a bird, be a bird. Be a bird. You don't see birds, you know, sitting there, pray for me that I can fly better. You know, it doesn't happen that way. You better pray for me. You better pray for me. I need more feathers. Somebody pray for me. Because they know they're created not equal. Everybody's not the same. Because all birds have something, but none of them have the same thing. And you know what? We ought to be at least that wise to figure that out. You know, let's take the chicken, for example, okay? Chicken is happy to be a chicken. You ever see them in the farmyard? They're happy to be a chicken. and with their short little wings and their stubby little bodies and their skinny little legs. Chickens don't need therapists. They don't need counseling. They don't have emotional disorders. They don't have breakdowns. They don't cry. They walk around in them little bitty skinny legs, and they jump up and they fly 3 or 4 or 5 feet and they flop back down, and they're happy. Hey, that's what I do. I'm a chicken. They know who they are. They're in a class by themselves. You don't, by the way, they are truly in a class by themselves, because you don't see any other bird on any restaurant menu more popular.
They taste good, I was just going to say.
There you go. Thank you for that. I have verification. The chicken is in demand all over the world, apparently, by restaurants and Colonel Sanders and those we enjoy. But you know what? The chicken is not like any other bird. Certainly not like the eagle, for example. The eagle is majestic and powerful, spreads its wings to a 9-foot wingspan, tip to tip, 9 feet wingspan on an eagle. That's like a God-made jet, you know. Flies faster than any other bird, goes higher than certainly the chicken can go. His eyesight is so keen, the eagle's eyesight is so keen, it can see miles away. It flies above the storm and in the dark, and functions on a totally other level. Eagles mate in the air. Hello. They make love in the air. They lay their eggs in high places. Eagles are kind of to the fowl kingdom what a lion is to the jungle. Now, they are the masters of where they are. And they're happy to be eagles. They're not trying to be chickens. They're not trying to be a menu item. I don't think they wouldn't taste good, I don't think. They aren't raised to be eaten, because though they can fly, they're not that tasty. They've got something, but not everything. And as long and as bright and as brilliant as the eagle's wings are, and as high as he can fly, his beauty cannot be compared to the peacock, which spreads its wings in the middle of mating to show how beautiful its feathers are. It may not fly like an eagle, may not taste like a chicken, but it has amazing plumage. And each of those birds, though they are the same species, were created to play a different role. All of them have attributes and liabilities, but they know who they are, and they're happy to be that. They are happy to be who they were created to be and live their lives large. Wouldn't it be amazing? Wouldn't it be amazing to be in an assembly, a church, a family, where people just knew their abilities and limitations and were happy to be who they were and created to be? None of this comparing one to another. No pride involved. No pouting involved. See, peace comes from knowledge and knowing and understanding that everybody has their own kind of beauty and purpose and their own kind of limitations, and it'll all work out fine if you don't try to be like the eagle. Everything's going to be okay, and if you're the peacock, just don't come down to the chicken coop. Everything's going to be fine. You know, we need to understand who we are and who we were called to be and excel at the place we are right now, because we know we're going to a different level soon enough. Get everything done properly at where you are. Learn what you need to learn, because God always teaches us on every level. He's taking us another step and another step. I mean, you can't produce a film if the supporting actor is trying to compete with the leading actor. Let's put it that way. If you signed up to be a supporting actor, be a supporting actor. Don't get into the middle of the movie and start trying to steal lines from the lead, because that's just not who you are or who you were cast to be in the movie, and it's not going to work out. There are plenty of people who get happy, but you can tell they're not really joyful. You know, on the inside, they dance, but they have no joy. They shout, but they have no power. And the reason they don't have any power is that they've never learned how to maximize their potential on the level God has them. You know, God did not promise to give us all the same potential, all the same giftings, all the same anointings. It says some He gave 30, others 60, others 100-fold, and to one man He gave 1 talent, and to another He gave 2, and another He gave 5. God didn't say that He would equip everybody the same. He says, I gave you, essentially, in my translation, but he says, I gave you what I gave you, and the only thing I'm asking is your obedience to serve the kingdom with what I have put in you and what I gave you. Do your part, and you will live large. There's a lot in the Bible about John, the apostle, the disciple John, the one who laid on Yeshua's breast, on his chest. However, John, that apostle, that disciple, talks to us about John the Baptist in the very first chapter of his writings of the Gospel of John. The writer talks about John the Baptist. And John the writer, the disciple, is one of the sons of Zebedee, described as the son of thunder. I will release hellfire and thunder. That's for you. It's an in-joke.
Wait till I introduce you to the Mega Cobra chicken.
Yes, John the Revelator and the writer is the son of thunder. He's described as that. His mother, Simone, is said to be the sister of Mary. And John the writer is said to be a cousin of Yeshua. And now we can understand why he laid his head on Yeshua's chest, on his breast, because he was a young protege, essentially. Younger than Peter. Actually, he was younger than all of them, all the rest of the disciples, apostles. That's why he outran them when they went to the empty tomb. He was younger than everybody. He had the energy. They were getting older. And that's why he outlived them. Ended up on Patmos, writing. He died of old age. Not martyred the way all the rest of them were. And John the writer, in the very first chapter of his gospel, introduces us to John the Baptist. And here's why. John the Baptist is the one that introduced John the writer to Yeshua. See, John the writer did not begin as a disciple of Yeshua. He was a disciple of John the Baptist. So John the Baptist essentially was his first pastor. And he writes to us about the experience and the lesson he learned from John the Baptist. Wild locust and honey eating John the Baptist with the funny clothes. That guy. John the Baptist, who ministered in the wilderness and who broke protocol and was not at all like his father. He did not serve in the temple. He preached out there in the wilderness. John the Baptist, who was so confident in his own skin that John the Baptist had his own name set apart from all his kindred, and none of his kindred had been called by the name John the Baptist. His first pastor knew who he was. He says, I'm not Elijah. I'm not the Messiah. I am a voice. I am a voice crying in the wilderness. He says, I indeed, yes, you.
I thought he was French, Jean Baptiste.
No, John the Baptist. See what you've learned already today? And he's the one who said, I indeed baptized you with water, but there's one coming. There's one coming after me who's mightier than I. And that's, that's where most of us kind of lose it at times. We're okay until somebody else mightier comes along, and we're happy until somebody prettier comes along. We're great until somebody smarter comes along, and we're satisfied until somebody more anointed comes along, and then we can get all messed up. We can get frustrated, stop being us and who we were called to be by God, and attempt to be like that other person that all of a sudden came on the scene. Because we are comparing ourselves with other people rather than being satisfied with who God created us to be and called us to be. Because there's always going to be somebody coming along that will be able to do better, greater things. And you have to be able to be happy to just be you, content and joyful to be you and be who God called you to be. Be joyful with the gifts God gave you. John the Baptist said about Yeshua, hey, you see that guy? Behold, the Lamb of God, who takes away the sins of the world. He said, that guy right there, that's the one I've been telling you about. I'm not even worthy to tie his shoes. And I'm happy to be me. I'm not competing with Yeshua. I know my place. John the Baptist said, I am a voice crying in the wilderness. Prepare ye the way of the divine master. He said, I'm just a voice. My name's not even important. And I have no problem with that. I'm not going to compete with your calling or your gifting. I will live large as who God made me and called me to be. And now, get this. John the Baptist, who seems so humble, knows his calling, says, there's someone coming after me that's a lot mightier than I am. He's talking, of course, about Yeshua. And not long after he introduces Yeshua, he dies. John the Baptist died because he completed his assignment. His place and his calling was finished. His assignment that God called him to do was done. That's why we die. When we complete the Father's assignment for us. Paul said it this way, I have kept the faith, I have run my race. And when he had done it, he died. And so the guy who was greater than John the Baptist, Yeshua, is now preaching at John the Baptist's funeral. He's giving the eulogy. And Yeshua is the one John the Baptist said was greater. But when Yeshua preaches at John the Baptist's funeral, here's what he says about John the Baptist. There is none greater amongst all the prophets than John the Baptist. None. John the Baptist never wrote a book of the Bible. He never performed a miracle. Was neither a major nor a minor prophet. He was just a voice, by his own admission, a voice crying in the wilderness. And yet Yeshua says, there is none greater than John the Baptist. What made John the Baptist greatest is that he paid the price. And he excelled in what he was called to do in obedience. Yeshua was sent to get back the blessing bestowed upon mankind. Believe that you have received it. It's on you and it's in you. And then release it in faith, and it will know exactly what to do in every situation. You even have the ministering spirits of God, the angels that are waiting for you to give the word of God voice to assist us in receiving our inheritance. So start speaking the blessing and living a large, distinguished life God has already established and laid up for you. Amen.